Hello. Oh, shoot. I literally, well, very almost threw my water away. Give me 2 seconds. I'll just turn the light on because Henry's light's about to go off and then we'll be plunged into darkness. Nobody wants that. Okay, so welcome to another Madness and Mayhem. So I'm slightly behind, not because of technical issues, but I don't know whether you've seen the TikTok, Instagram influencers who post really fabulous food items. And you think, oh, that looks really good. That looks really easy. Well, just a heads up, 99% of the time, they're not easy in any way, shape, or form. So this lady who I think is freaking awesome. And she does like really cool videos. And she made this like potato flour, like she made like a Cornish pasty using mixed spice and potato in the pastry is what I would say. It's kind of like a foreign version of a Cornish pasty. It was really tasty. So she made it look so easy. I was like, oh, it's just a bit of mashed potato. It's me, I can do that. No, 90 minutes it took me to do it. So I was a couple of minutes late, just finishing gobbling some food. So that said, enough about me. On to today's show. We are going to be talking about Venezuela, land grab, or and I can't even remember what the words are. Oh, where's my see, bar stools. Liberation or land grab. Okay, we're going to be talking about be careful who you trust, because we've got May elections coming up, and you have elections everywhere in other places around the world too, and then some free food. So what I ate today was not free food, but it was good food. Definitely be making it again. So we'll start off with Venezuela, and as usual, we're going to kind of go through things potentially from a different perspective. So first up, I think I was very impressed with the whole in and out 23-ish minutes jobby. So it just goes to show that it doesn't have to, people don't have to die. But also, if you hadn't seen, they literally turned the lights off in Venezuela. Like they just sent them to blackout. And I've been saying for ages, there's no need to do full scale military operations like we have done in the past. Bombing the Iran nuclear facility, bombing the ISIS underground potential stronghold in Nigeria, that's different. You are destroying infrastructure which are being used and weaponized. Like that does need some kind of physiological intervention. But outside of that, we have technology and we have systems in place that can just stop things without using bullets, right? So we have DEW, so direct energy weaponry that can, you can like put if you target somebody with certain frequencies, you can literally just like put them into a zombie state so they can't do anything. Like we know this, and they were doing those experiments in the 50s and 60s and so there's a catalogue of evidence with regards to using energy-based weapons to render people incapable of moving. The only reason why we've continued to have boots on the ground based warfare is because of the money machine behind it. If you can render an entire opposition army like useless for the cost of, what is it at the moment, like 26p kilowatt pence an hour with a bit of electric, so it's not very financially viable for the war machine, right? So first off, I just think we all need to kind of congratulate Trump with regards to the speed and ease at which that was done. Okay, so we're going to roll back the tide. We're going to go all the way back to Trump's first term, right? So I'm I'm very grateful for Terpsahor Maras. And again, torsaid.com, right? If you want to find out what's going on now, you need to be listening to the shows that she did 2018, 2019. So every time I see shit happen, I'm like, oh, yeah. Oh, yep. Yep. Thank you very much. We knew this was coming. We were already told this was coming. So I get very frustrated by people going, "Oh my God, this is like, where did this go? This came out of nowhere." Nothing comes out of nowhere for a start. We also have to make sure we go back to find out kind of what's going on. So when the kind of Venezuela thing happened, when I looked at my ex in the morning, I was like, "Oh, okay, now it's time." Right, that's what went through my head. I wasn't shocked. I wasn't surprised. I just thought they did it really well because it was coming. And then the entire world's going to like imploding, and obviously the mainstream media is like pretending, we'll talk about. It's just like the people on the ground were so happy and celebrating, and it had been 25 years worth of like dictatorship, starved to death, like completely obliterated by the Venezuelan regime. So everything they say Trump is, the Murdo regime was and is doing, right? So we have an evil dictator in number 10 at the moment. I say we have. He's an incompetent buffoon, who is definitely the taker, not the giver. We did have those Ukrainian rent boys, right? Remember? Which, we've heard nothing about those since, but he was definitely not the person in charge. But so whoever is giving him his orders, right? He's just anyway. It's the people who have been like obsessed with no kings, no dictators, like freedom, literally championing a genocidal, homicidal regime who is like just causing like a mass humanitarian crisis because Trump did it, right? So he's just insane watching it from the outside. But what we're going to do is we're going to roll back, right? We're not going to be pretending that it wasn't obvious this was coming. We're not going to be pretending that it should have been a shock. We're going to kind of like go back and find out how we got to this place. And I do recommend, Tor did quite a few shows on Venezuela. So, but we're gonna grab stuff from outside as well, as always. So first off, we're going to start with some executive orders that Trump laid down in his first term, right? What we're seeing now in his second term is everything that he kind of put in play in his first term, and then he went dark, right? Because the other thing, right? Let's just, while I say this, he has been banging on and on and on and on about a stolen election. He left, right? He left. It was 100% stolen. He went and kind of did his commander-in-chief stuff in the background, but he let it happen. So there's no way he's going to go into another country and just take over, right? He's, for all of his failings, at no point have I seen him being a hypocrite. He says something and he fucking follows it through. If he can, right? If he can't, then he will come out and fucking say why. But there just is just people are being retarded, and it's very frustrating. Okay, so in his first term, he did multiple executive orders, right? And I got Grok to list them for me. Okay, so first term, 2017 to 2021. He did multiple executive orders directly addressing Venezuela. So he was already talking about it being an issue back then. And so where we are now, it's 25 years into this stranglehold on the population. And if you think about how destroyed the US got in just 4 years with Biden, right? So after they had the prosperity of Trump, like they were on the floor, like how expensive were the eggs? You're paying like 10 quid for like 6 eggs. And if you are in the UK, think about the absolute sheer destruction that Starmer's done in 18 months. So now expand that over 25 years. That's the hell that they've been living in. So he already did some executive orders about the Maduro regime for human rights abuses, corruption, and undermining democracy. And these actually built on an initial national emergency, which was declared by Obama in 2015. So obviously Obama did it because they wanted the money of the oils and the leverage and all of those things. But because it was the foundation was there from Obama, so we would say thanks Obama for that one. He kind of expanded on that. So we had EO 13808, August 24, 2017, which imposed additional sanctions with respect to the situation in Venezuela, which restricted US dealings in new debt bonds issued by the Venezuelan government and the PDVSA state oil company. So that prohibited certain transactions to curb regime financing. So going after the money. And I just want to reiterate something that we kind of went into a few weeks ago. We have to remember Al Capone was actually finally caught on tax evasion. They used RICO to get rid of the mob. They don't, they weren't getting done for, it was racketeering and conspiracy, not necessarily the murders, right? Sometimes they were kind of like thrown in there, but you can't always go after somebody specifically for the thing that you think they are, you've got evidence of, if it's not going to be watertight and open and shut. So say, for example, one of the things that I was throwing around with Grok was the possibility of taking the government to court for corporate manslaughter, right? So our government in the United Kingdom is a corporation. And if the actions they've taken can be proven, is a chain of evidence, is why you have to let them do it, right? It's horrific, but you can't do things lawfully and legally unless you have the evidence, right? So what we have now with regards to COVID, so we're having to wait till now, because now people are accepting the fact that, and then the research and the science is now allowing us to kind of say the stuff that we knew, right, 5 years ago, that the people are dying because of the vaccines, that Pfizer suppressed the information. So we I don't have standing. This is where things get very difficult. I don't have to have standing because while all of my family members are jabbed to high heaven, and I've had multiple family members having surgery, lots of complications that I know are absolutely from the jabs, they don't accept it, right? So I don't have standing because I'm not vaccine injured. So if there's anybody out there who's vaccine injured and was conned by the UK government with regards to safe and effective, so we now have corporate manslaughter. So you can't do that if there's somebody, obviously corporate manslaughter, somebody's died, right? So you can't do that until somebody's died from it. But what we have is a clear pattern. We have clear evidence that there were people speaking up from in beforehand. And this is why you have to get everything on record in the government. You have to file the petitions. You have to be the one, writing to your MP and your council. But, if you're me, they just delete it. Right. So the chain of evidence from my end is that I contacted them. Their end will say, well, we just didn't see that email. Right. That's what's going on. Because I still haven't had a response with regards to asking the question at the next council meeting, and it's been almost a month since I asked, and I've re-asked. I've sent just chasing up with regards to this, right? So I just get ignored. It's fine. It doesn't matter. I don't care. I'm doing it in lots of different ways. But this is why you do the petition, because if you do a petition at 100 signatures, they have to formally respond. So we have the chain of evidence that people were aware, people were bringing this information to the institutions to make them aware of the issues, and they chose not to respond, right? So there we are. So this is what Trump's done, is he knew all this shit was going on. So how do you box somebody in a corner? Well, it has to be an illegal thing, right? If somebody's going around murdering people and it's not against the law to murder people, then they can do it. So what you first need to do is you then have to bring in something that enables the crime that they're committing to now be a crime. like we've got all those like non-crime hate crimes in the UK. Like before they made him a crime, it was fine. Now they made him a crime, they go after them with abandon, depending on which side of the pendulum you swing. But you then have to get evidence. So prohibiting certain transactions to curb regime financing. So as soon as that executive order in place, it was obvious to anybody who read the executive order they're going to be monitoring this now, right? There's wiretapping, there's FISA, there's umpteen different ways. There's spies, there's probably whistleblowers, but they have to start tracking things, following the money. So I don't know whether you've ever seen this kind of web, where they've got an image of somebody in the middle, and they're like, are they connected to this? And I'm not talking about the crazy like red string stuff, but even that, right? It becomes this other person, this other person, this other person, this other person, this other person. If you want to dismantle the cabal, you don't go after the little people, right? And that's why what they did with the mob was so good, right? They followed what was going on with the little people, and you go up and up and up. You want the kingpin. You don't want the little people around the bottom. So you have to follow it. So Executive Order 13827. Oh, do you know, I've just realised I didn't have my chat on, so apologies. I've just opened it up now. So from March 19, 2018, taking additional steps to address the situation in Venezuela, prohibited US persons from dealings in Venezuelan digital currency, petro or related tokens issued after January the 9th, 2019. So then we started to recognize, so what we know there is Trump's like, oh shit, right? So we've said you can't kind of do bonds. So they blocked they kind of made it unlawful to do the bonds. So they would have been watching it. So then they started using crypto. So now they have to kind of put something in place to say, right, anybody from this point in time who is dealing in digital currency, right, you're on the list too. Executive Order 13835, May 21st, 2018, prohibiting certain additional transactions with respect to Venezuela. So banned US purchases of Venezuelan debt or accounts receivable and equity pledges by the government. So that is buying bad debt, the money laundering. So that's kind of a way of money laundering. So basically these executive orders will be coming out because they've been following the money, and they will be watching what's going on and then seeing how they're then changing what they're doing, right? The criminals want to, if something's, they will try and find a way to keep doing what they're doing without ending up in prison. Like, if you have to start thinking like a criminal, I mean, don't go and do the criminal things, but you want to be a step ahead. You don't want to be in prison. So if you've seen this executive order come out, you now know this stuff's being watched and tracked, right? So you will kind of finish up the stuff you got to do, but you got to find another way because the heat's on. So Executive Order 13850, November 1st, 2018. So blocking property of additional persons contributing to the situation in Venezuela. So authorized sanctions on individuals or entities in Venezuela's gold or oil sectors, amended later for broader blocking. Okay, so now he's saying, okay, well, anybody contributing, we're going to sanction individuals or entities. So that is individual people or companies in Venezuela's gold and oil sectors. So that's Venezuela's individuals, if they're kind of fucking around with the gold and oil, right? Well, not golden oil, gold and oil. Sorry. So sanctioning people outside helping them and sanctioning them inside, right? So that will hurt the people, because if Venezuela are no longer allowed to kind of like distribute the gold and oil, that's going to hurt the people. Well, I mean, they're not releasing the money anyway. So Executive Order 13857, January 25th, 2019. Taken additional steps to address the national emergency with respect to Venezuela. So they're going to they did amend prior EOs to redefine government of Venezuela amid the recognition of Juan Guaido as interim president. Well, that's really interesting. I mean, obviously it's really obvious what they're doing because it was Maduro before, right? It's really interesting that he did an entire executive order about Juan Guaido. So I would say that that was probably done specifically to allow spying, checking on, like diving into extra people, right? So maybe it was all kind of tied up before. I don't know American legal systems. I think that's really interesting that even though they said like Venezuelan government, they're now specifically mentioning the person who was kind of like the interim president. Really weird. Executive order 13884. So this is August the 5th, 2019. Blocking property of the government of Venezuela. So full blockade of Venezuelan government assets in the US. Prohibited most transactions with the regime. And so this was like literally anybody who is part of the Venezuelan government, got any assets in the US. That's it. You can't access them. You're not having them. You're not. So he's stopped anybody from anybody inside the USA who was dealing with Venezuela. They were kind of like, kneecapped first, then specifically targeting the key institutions and ways in which Venezuela was kind of laundering money and kind of profiting. And then, right, being like, okay, well, then now you can't even access any of the money that you could be generating in the USA, right? That's it. Now, he also did an action in March 2025, so imposing tariffs on countries importing Venezuelan oil, right? So when he was going around and putting tariffs on everybody, and the mainstream media was like, oh my God, like they're all going to die, nobody cares, like everybody in America is going to be bankrupt. And anybody kind of looking from the outside was like, they kind of hold all the power. So it's everybody else who's fucked, basically. Because that's, obviously that's what mainstream media was doing. They were just lying, as usual. And reaping the benefits at the moment. So it was like anybody, right? So now he's going, right, that's it. Because he's obviously back in office. And he's making deals like crazy. And he's just saying, right, that's it. Anybody importing Venezuelan oil, your tariffs are going to be through the roof. So he put things in place, right? The next thing we're going to do is we're going to jump to 2020. 2020. I'm going to share this one with you. Because, again, people are, I don't know, very confused by the situation. That's probably the politest way to say it. Oh, there we go. Okay, so this is from the US Department of Justice archive. Okay, so they put all those executive orders in place, and then they have the proof and the evidence, right? So I've now been watching you and your regime and everything that's been fucking going on for the last 2017, 2018, 2019, like 3.5 years. So now we've got enough evidence to say that under, this is not like Trump just saying, oh, he's a fucking, drug dealer. Like they now have this huge bank of evidence, enough evidence to do a fucking press release, which states Nicolas Maduro, Moros, and 14 current and former Venezuelan officials are being charged with narco-terrorism, corruption, drug trafficking, and other criminal charges. Maduro and other high-ranking Venezuelan officials allegedly partnered with FARC to use cocaine as a weapon to flood the United States. Oh, wait a minute. I can't remember what FARC is. My apologies. With the FARC. Oh, I read about it. I can't remember. My apologies. It might tell us later. So former president of Venezuela, Nicolas, because he wasn't the president then, remember, it was Juan. And now one of our angelfish is called Juan. So it just makes our apologies. So Venezuela's vice president for the economy, Venezuela's minister of defense, and Venezuela's chief Supreme Court justice are among those charged in New York City. And obviously, we've just seen today that's where he was taken by helicopter, into a car, into a courthouse in New York City. Washington, D.C., and Miami, along with current and former Venezuelan government officials, as well as two FERZers, Armadas Revolucionaries de Colombia. Oh, that's who they are, right? They're leaders. Oh, okay, there we go. It's their kind of like Revolutionary Guard. That's it. Announced U.S. Attorney General William P. Barr, U.S. Attorney Jeffrey Berman, and the Southern District of New York, U.S. Attorney Irina Fardo-Ocean of the Southern District of Florida, Assistant Attorney General Brian A. Bukanzowski, and lots of other people. So the Venezuelan regime, once led by Nicolas Maduro, Moras remains plagued by criminality and corruption, said Attorney General Barr. For more than 20 years, Maduro and a number of high-ranking colleagues allegedly conspired with the FARC, causing tons of cocaine to enter and devastate American communities. Today's announcement is focused on rooting out the extensive corruption within the Venezuelan government, a system constructed and controlled to enrich those at the highest level of the government. The United States will not allow these corrupt Venezuelan officials to use the U.S. banking system to move their illicit proceeds from South America nor further their criminal schemes. Today, we announced criminal charges against Nicolas Maduro Moras for running together with his top lieutenants a narco-terrorism partnership with the FARC for the past 20 years. Oh, they just keep saying the same shit again. The scope and magnitude of the drug trafficking alleged was made possible only because Maduro and others corrupted the institutions of Venezuela and provided political military protection for the rampant narco-terrorism crimes described in our charges. As alleged, Maduro and other defendants expressly intended to flood the United States with cocaine in order to undermine the health and well-being of our nation, right? So how do they know that? Well, they know that because they've been spying on them, right? So if you go to WikiLeaks Vault 7, you'll find out about the way that they can spy on people. Like the CIA was spying on people through their own freaking Samsung TVs. The NCA, the National Crime Agency in the United Kingdom, managed to get into the EncroChat system, and they were literally watching in real time as drug deals and human trafficking and smuggling was happening. Right, they were so there's you can while they may not be able to read my text messages because the end-to-end encryption. If my phone's got spyware on it, they just literally mirroring it. If you've ever kind of like mirrored your phone to a TV, like people are just so I can't. So there's loads of different ways how they can see shit. So they know, right? They won't be officially saying this shit stuff if it's not true. Now that doesn't mean like all of these people I'm mentioning are good people, i.e. Bill Barr, who Epstein, all that shit. Bad person. Maduro very deliberately deployed cocaine as a weapon. While Maduro and other cartel members had lofty titles in Venezuela's political and military leadership, the conduct described in the indictment wasn't statecraft or service to the Venezuelan people. As alleged, the defendants betrayed the Venezuelan people and corrupted Venezuelan institutions to line their pockets with drug money. Over the last decade, corrupt Venezuelan government officials have systematically looted Venezuela of billions of dollars, said U.S. Attorney Ariana Fardo-Ocean. So far too often, these corrupt officials and co-conspirators have used South Florida banks and real estate to conceal and perpetuate their illegal activity. As the recent charges show, Venezuelan corruption and money laundering in South Florida extends to even the highest level of Venezuela's judicial system. In the last couple of years, the U.S. Attorney's Office in South Florida and its federal law enforcement partners have united to bring dozens of criminal charges against high-level regime officials and co-conspirators, resulting in seizures of approximately $450 million. Right? So, and I got Grok to kind of dig into that money, right? So okay, so how did they get the money? Like what's going on with it? Let me just go. Okay, so oh no, that's the wrong bit. Oh, that's the USAID stuff. Oh, I asked him to find out. Oh, here we go. Um, no. Oh, actual numbers. Okay. No, that's the wrong thing. Oh, I'm so sorry. 2020. Okay, here's a couple of examples. So 2020 Iranian fuel seizures. So under the executive orders, the US seized 4 tankers carrying 1.1 million barrels of Iranian gasoline destined for Venezuela, evading sanctions. Right. So remember, they just put the we're going to sanction anybody who's trading outside. The fuel was sold, generating $40 million, which was fortified to the Treasury forfeiture fund, and that was directly tied to EO 13850's oil sector sanctions. Ongoing asset forfeitures. So from 2017 to 2021, OFAC and DOJ seized over $2 billion in Venezuelan-linked assets globally. And remember this. What you're seeing on the screen is 2020. So 2017 to 2021. 2 billion in Venezuelan-linked assets globally blocked by PDVSA funds, gold smuggling networks, post-seizure proceeds returned to Treasury after legal processes. So, for instance, 2025 Treasury report notes 500 plus million in Venezuelan-related forfeitures since 2019, funding anti-narco operations. Recent 2026 actions boost Maduro capture include tanker seizures with proceeds earmarked for Treasury. So the Treasury's annual report, so 2024 TFF summary, shows 1.2 billion in total sanctions-related forfeitures, including Venezuelan cases, supporting US law enforcement without taxpayer costs. So that's why they are quoting that money. So the money, whatever they're seizing, they're selling. And then the money's going back into the Treasury and enabling them to do more operations. So if you really want to read the rest of it, you absolutely can. But the executive orders and this should have had everybody like 5 years ago, at least, like 5 years at the latest, going at some point, Venezuela is going to go down. So again, I'm not sure why everybody's like shocked. If you're on X and you're not following like the official government accounts, then you're missing a trick. So the other day, so you probably heard about the Somalia stuff with the daycares, the Somalia daycare stuff, right? You know how there was a whole MSN, like they were just ignoring it. So I follow the official government accounts of many different governments, to be fair. And some of them are not in English, so I have to transcribe them. But I mean, I don't transcribe them. I get the internet does. But so I following I think it was the US Marshals. Was it the US Marshal Service? Or the there was one department, right? One of the departments, who literally, they posted a post to say, with them out on the doorsteps already, right? So I saw that information kind of land, and maybe halfway through the day, they were out on the streets, like in the day, looking at the daycare centers. I was like, that's pretty impressive, right? It's only just kind of like blown up, and they've seen it, and they're on the back of it. Bearing in mind, if you do go to Torsaid.com, you'll find out that she like kind of mentioned all that in 2018, 2019. Anyway, Fox News 24 hours later did a breaking post. And I was like, they literally posted to their own account 24 hours ago. It's not breaking news 24 hours fucking late. So I urge you to follow the actual accounts. And if you're in the UK, we've got Ministry of Justice, Department of Defense, follow the actual accounts. And maybe this is why I've always started going, yeah, shit's happening in the background, because I keep seeing like these people getting arrested and indicted. And everybody else is like, nothing's happening. And I'm like, literally just watch like loads of people get rolled up. Like, where were you? You were waiting for an influencer or the news to tell you. right? And bearing in mind, everybody does have limited capacity. If somebody was like, if you like, nobody has the capacity to kind of regurgitate everything and watch everything. So sometimes people just miss stuff. But if you want to, if you are doubting things are going on, then you're not doing enough to actually pay attention to the people who are telling you what's going on. And by that, I don't mean an influencer. I don't mean like even somebody like me who just kind of like just chat shit for a few hours. Go to the actual source of the organizations. Okay, so that's kind of said. So we knew it was coming. So I want to kind of go on to the whole it's been done for oil thing. I don't think it's a land grab, right? The reason why I don't think it's a land grab is because if you look at the actions of Trump's second term, well, his first term, anytime they were grabbing stuff, they were throwing it into the treasury and doing like arresting more people, right? What we've had in the last 2 weeks, we had a bombing ISIS stronghold. I say ISIS stronghold. We discovered in potential underground facilities where they and they were planning mass bomb actions and mass deaths on Christmas Day in Nigeria. So we had that like bombing. We also had, we had Somaliland kind of like break ranks, but we also had this week, which people have kind of like missed. This USA sent like bomber-based airplanes to the United Kingdom, and the same time, like literally on my feed, I had the UK Department of Defense, and I had to argue with Grok because Grok said this didn't happen. Literally had the UK Military of Defense telling me that we've just bombed Syria. And then the post underneath was RAF Falkenshaw, I think, saying we've just had these bombs like bombers have just landed, like literally, and they were posted like and within minutes of each other. And I was like, well, that's really interesting. So everybody's forgotten about that. So what was going on in Syria? It was an ISIS stronghold, right? So ISIS dismantled. This is what's going on. Is systematically dismantling ISIS, right? The terrorist organizations. You cut them off financially, and then you weaken them. We have Iran popping off and the media fucking ignoring that for days. And FYI, like, I don't know how anybody is surprised by what's going on in Iran either. Like, at all. I have been watching them protesting and rioting for years. They've been doing this in Iran. This is years and years and years. And 2 to 3 years ago, there was an article and it was being reported that there's been a mass exodus from Islam in Iran with 50,000 mosques closing. Now, that's been reported as brand new breaking news now. It's actually available like years ago, right? But I have been watching the Iranian people who have been protesting. They've been holding free Iran conferences around the world with world leaders for the last 4 years. So anybody who's shocked by the fact that the Iranian people have stood up, if you go back through any of my, even just the shows of this last year's shows, you'll see me talking about the women taking off their hijabs, like, and fucking risking being gunned down, being beaten to death, the singers and the young students who are refusing to kind of follow along, who are being prosecuted and murdered like on a daily basis, and they are just standing strong. So at some point there was going to be an inflection. It was always guaranteed to happen. So anybody who's shocked by Iran, again, you just haven't been paying attention, because you're not what happens in other countries is important because it will ripple outwards, right? So why is Iran important? And not just because, Khamenei. Like, I started really following them when he kind of got back in, but I was already following him before, which is how I knew, like, he was the butcher, right? So the day I was like, oh well, this is good news. So I was already following what was going on in Iran. and chatting to people on X who actually in the country, real life Iranians, rather than just randomers. So they have not been happy for a very long time, right? So if you think about Iran never used to be this terrorist state. It was forced into this by the CIA, MI6, rogue, well, the cabal, right? The cabal used our taxpayers' money to subdue nations in the Middle East so they could rape those countries' resources. Right. So back in old empire times, we would have just landed boots on the ground, and we kind of half did that to make the war machine happy, but it was all kind of done behind the scenes, which is the unrestricted warfare, which is the same thing China have been doing back on us. Iran are doing back on us. Look at the Muslim Brotherhood, right? So they literally took what we did to them and then they reversed it, and they've been doing it to us. And if you've never seen the Yuri Bemenov, I think it's an hour and a half long, he's talking about how they'll subdue the West without ever having to kind of fire a shot. And 6% of the lefties, who they will always use the left, right? It's probably a running joke in terrorist circles, right? They will always use the left, and then they execute them. And if you look at any kind of history, look at Lebanon, look at whatever's gone on, is they just because they're so far gone, right? The Green Party in the UK are literally doing the same fucking thing. I mean, they're not even doing red, green alliance now. They're going green, green, right? So Iran, and he did the we had Israel saying they're going to use their nukes. I need to start the war, and Trump went in and just obliterated it, right? So now Israel can't start a war. So why? And I said this back then. Why was it so important that Trump did that? Because the Iranian people have already been rising up. So Netanyahu was not starting a war with ISIS, right, in Iran, because the vast majority of the people in Iran have already been kind of fighting their own government, right? They've tried loads of different methods. They were already there. So it was imperative that Trump stopped that, because that was would have just been mass casualties of non-violent people. Right, non-violent people wanting to live their lives, wanting their own country back, wanting their country to look like it did with their grandparents' stories that they were telling them. It was only the 60s and 50s and 60s where Iran was westernized, right? So it's not long. And similarly, Egypt, they used to be, and we did the whole when we went into that Egyptian guy. It used to be like a Western. And Egypt, until the 60s, it was a British protectorate. So it fucking 100% was, not extreme. Anyway. Oh, and then it got plunged into socialism. And then all of a sudden it's fucking extreme, right? So we have Nigeria, ISIS stronghold gone. We have Somaliland. Somaliland actually reclaimed their independence 1991. Let's not forget that. 1991 they reclaimed. So everybody's just been ignoring them. And Somaliland is completely different to Somalia. So Somaliland kind of deciding, fuck this shit, we're gonna get on this train. we're gonna get out there. And Israel backed them, and Israel did not back them for good means, right? Israel backed them because they want to use Somaliland because they're right next door to Yemen. So we had it up on the map, right? Is Israel as the judo psychotic state did it, but it doesn't mean the Somalilanders don't deserve a bit of love, right? And they're all in on the West, right? So why would you not support somebody who we supported a fucking terrorist state? So then we had Syria, an ISIS stronghold in Syria taken out, right? That's happened in the last 2 weeks. So do I think what's gone on in Venezuela is an oil land grab? No. because you are, if you think that, then you're only looking at it in isolation, right? Trump literally has been passing the power. So in his 2017 inaugural speech, he says, I'm going to give the power back to you, the people. And if you actually pay attention to the actions and the things that he did and he's done, that's literally what he's been doing. So let's talk about the other thing, right? So yes, it was never a surprise that Venezuela was going to happen, ever. So we also had Dodge and Trump dismantle USAID. I 100% believe Trump, they are looking after Venezuela, right? Because they've just removed the head of state. They will need to have an election. They will need to have a free and fair election, because they haven't had a free and fair election because they bought the election machines in 1999, knowing that they could be rigged, right? That's how America sold them to Venezuela. So for everybody who was talking about, the elections were stolen and kept saying, it was the Venezuelan machines, you didn't go back far enough to when they were actually sold by America. Let's actually go back long enough. And the whole narco-terrorism, like fucking the British Empire did that first, right? It's the same thing. You need to go and look at opium wars, right? I think we literally had China in a bind for decades. And you can read the original transcripts. They're available. You've got to hunt for them, but they are available. So it's the same thing, right? You will subdue the nation or whatever way you want possible. So they got rid of USAID. Dodge has been fucking like ruthless. So this is when we're going back to kind of understand where Venezuela kind of ended up where they did. So USAID was providing significant funding, so 40 to 50 million annually by 2010 to Venezuela, through NGOs, opposition groups, under democracy promotion, right? So democracy promotion, i.e., we will keep giving you this money if you keep using these machines so that you can keep rigging the election, so we can keep laundering money, so that we can keep drugs going through, so that we can keep fucking with the American people and the rest of the world. So it was done under Chavez, and they were still giving him lots of money. That's our total. We don't need total amounts. So it's not new. So they overthrew the Chavez government and put Maduro in place, right? That's what USAID money did. And when it was kind of like ignored, like it was like banned publicly, it was still being kind of funneled through the back door. Same as what Putin did. Putin kicked him out of Russia, and they were still kind of funneling it through the back door, right? Because you can't control the world if you're not controlling the world. We have, I'm just going back, my apologies. Oh, that was me asking about oil. Oh yeah, so everybody like talking about oil. Canada is like third or fourth, so depending on what you're kind of like counting it. And Canada will, like the North Atlantic Union is like in place. So Canada's already part of the USA. So they've already got, like, America is number 11 anyway in the kind of like rankings. Canada's number 3. He's made good deals with Saudi Arabia. He doesn't need to steal money. He doesn't need to steal oil. And it goes against everything else he's been doing, which is literally unpicking and giving shit back to people, right? Because he didn't go into Nigeria and overtake Nigeria. He didn't do these things. He's made deals and trade deals. It's really annoying. Oh, this is Grok trying to convince me that we should use fucking that wind is renewables is a good thing in the UK. I was just like, yeah, you're an idiot. I'm not even arguing with that. We also had France being fucking sneaky, sneaky, if you missed that, attempting to there was a silent assassination plot in Burkina Faso, kind of like funded by France, so they lost. So what actually happened when he cut off Venezuela is who was benefiting from Venezuela? China and Russia, to be fair. Who was benefiting throughout Africa and the Belt and Road Initiative? China. And then Russia was also benefiting. Who's benefiting and controlling the Middle East? China, right? So China is the biggest fucking threat. And in the United Kingdom, they are the biggest fucking threat because they are targeting us daily with cybercrime, bringing down government servers, stealing government-based information, stealing information from schools. There was a school that literally had to close down for like weeks because somebody got in the back door and got patient information, parent information, like, and I mentioned this before, didn't I? Because the school system's linked into the police system. So China is attacking the UK daily. They own shitloads of our fucking debt. They are building a giant spy fucking embassy, and they wrote a book called Unrestricted Warfare, right? They literally told everybody, well, we're going to do all these things to subvert you. So what we also saw was China. So Xi came out and he said, well, we're not going to respond like militarily. We're going to respond lawfully, right? So it was really interesting because like the West went quiet, probably because they were like, fuck, am I next, right? So it must have been done from my personal point of view, it must have been done with people in Venezuela agreeing. Yes, they kind of like shut the lights off. But in order they to get in, to get out and not be stopped, no casualties, like for the fact that it happened and it happened seamlessly, to me indicates that there was help, right? And what we saw in Nigeria is it was a joint operation. We also have to remember that Maduro was not the president. Like everybody came out and said he's just kidnapped the president. He wasn't. He was not elected. He was a fucking dictator, an evil criminal dictator person. So everybody claps when we assassinate those. And I mean, I don't clap then either. But people clap when we assassinate a evil dictator terrorist in one country, and then we become outraged when rather than assassinating, we're going to take that person and hold them accountable in a court of law. Like, I don't understand how people can't see the conflicting in their mind. It's dodgy. Sorry, I've just got to scroll past loads of climate zealot shit that I had to argue with him about because I was talking about oil. So we have the potential proof of election rigging, right? So literally watched it I watched the 2020 election, watched Trump winning, and then all of a sudden like it just stopped. This is the exact same thing happened in Venezuela. And now maybe they've got access to all the fucking information that they needed. We also had the Georgia election meddling case is going ahead. We have Leilani Dowling, who I used to watch Made in Chelsea because my brain needs a break sometimes. And I quite enjoyed Made in Chelsea. And that's when I first kind of came across Leilani Dowling. And I was then I kind of like just stopped watching all that shit when I started to find out like everybody was like satanic. And then spotted her very early on, kind of like being anti-COVID and vaccines and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, she's a normal human, and she was a little bit of a rebel on kind of Made in Real Housewives of Cheshire, not Made in Chelsea, Real Housewives of Cheshire. But she came out and posted saying that Trump needs to, and I tried to find the actual post, but I think she must have deleted it because she had pushback. But it actually made me angry, or maybe it was just my Facebook wouldn't let me see it. It made me really angry because this is what people are using to inform their decisions. And she really didn't pay attention to what just happened. So she said, pretty incredible how the US can capture Maduro and his wife to stand trial in the USA while pardoning a Honduran drug trafficker while not making a single arrest for COVID jab scams, Dodge fraud, voter fraud, the real masterminds behind the 68 IQ Somalian fraud, Clinton corruption, Benghazi, January 6th, Epstein, or anything meaningful or important. So straight away when he came to power, he as soon as he could, he pardoned the J6s, and they have been doing lawful things. And if you've been paying attention, you'll have seen that they have been doing stuff to prove that that was all bullshit. The Clintons, they have to appear in court, right? That's this month, right? How did you miss that? The Somalian fraud, they were on the ground an hour later because their own account showed it. We have nothing about Epstein, kind of the person in charge when Epstein got arrested. And anybody wanted the Epstein list, it's been out since 2015. It was his black book. And people tracked phones and stuff to and from the island. Has he arrested everybody from it? Like, it doesn't happen overnight. And we have to remember that they arrested Epstein and then Trump wasn't in power for 4 years. If I was an evil mastermind and I got a break like that, I would make sure I've scrubbed the fucking servers. Like, Clinton would just take a magnet and a hammer to it, right? Like, she had 30,000 emails that disappeared already. Like, it's really easy to fucking hide information. So hopefully good people kind of squirreled stuff away first. But everybody seems to forget the 4 years where Trump wasn't in office. Voter fraud, he's literally just had his Georgia case is now allowed to go through, right? COVID jabs, they've made it black box, right? They've said you can't do it anymore. If you want to do stuff lawfully, it doesn't happen fast at all. And voter fraud, Venezuela literally ties into voter fraud. Like, the two things are fucking connected. And the Dodge stuff, because USAID is connected. So, like, at what point do you start thinking, oh, well, this person is either really ill-informed, somebody else has hacked her account, or she's just following a fucking script. And the script today is turn on Trump, right? Because everything she listed as meaningful and important, if you actually pay attention what's happened in the last 14, 15 months, less than. When did he get, less than 12 months, isn't it? Because you get inaugurate. I don't know, where are we? 2026? When did he get? Oh no, because it was 2024. Okay, well, 18 months maybe. It's not a long fucking time to dismantle an entire 2,000-3,000 years strong empire who's been pulling the fucking strings of the entire world. Like, I just now I think it's good that we have high expectations. We really should have high expectations of ourselves and others, 100%. But at what point do you start to realize that you're either following retards, and I never kind of follow, it's just kind of nice to see other people kind of, like, speaking about this shit, so you don't feel so alone, right? Or do you start to go, "Well, I just thought she was lucky that she didn't get removed from the internet talking about COVID," right? Um, be really careful, and this is gonna feed into what we're talking about next with be careful who you follow. But that just really pissed me off because hopefully you've seen, like, Venezuela was really important. Fucking dismantling. I would much rather, I'm gonna throw it out there, I would much rather Trump took decisive action and bombed the shit out of a potential weapon cache that could murder hundreds, if not thousands of people, than he go and arrest somebody such as Hillary Clinton with no evidence and they walk away. I would much rather everybody waited, the evidence was collected, there's a watertight case. Because look at Diddy, right? Look at Diddy and how they fake the system, and I told you before the fucking court case that he would not go down for all the things that he was being arrested for. Because you cannot be charged on conspiracy if you're the only person. Like, it literally said in the book you needed two or more people. He was being charged with conspiracy. He was being charged with kidnapping and trafficking, but trafficking to no one. The same as Ghislaine, right? She can't be charged. Like, you can't. She was never convicted of that because they didn't prove who she trafficked them to because they didn't want to say, right? But to say that it's like nothing's happening. Like, open your fucking eyes. Or stop taking backhanders and leading people down a fucking dark alley. So, now we're gonna kinda go to the crazy places. Kinda crazy. No, okay, so, and I wouldn't have, so key to remember, China had a stranglehold on Venezuela. China's been funding, and Iran has been funding jihadi attacks, and Qatar. That's what happened in Venezuela, is it cut off more money to the cabal. And if for those of you who, forgotten, the Rothschilds were literally selling the family silver a couple of years ago. So everybody's saying, the Jews, the Jews and the Rothschild banking industry are like, fuck it, like they have no fucking money. Literally selling the paintings and their extra homes and, right? I genuinely, I despair. So we also have to remember to pay attention and just take a beat, right? Take a breath when you see new information and be like, okay, I need to remember this piece of information and I need to figure out with all the information that I already know, because this is thousands of year old plan to be in control because they want to be in control. So anytime it deviates, they have to pull back and put us back under control. So it's not like a 3,500 year plan to enslave humanity. They have been actively enslaving humanity for at least 3,500 years. And every time we tried to break free, they find a new way to put us back under the thumb, right? So you have to look at it in two completely different ways. They didn't wake up and be like, I reckon we can enslave these fuckers. Let's go for it. Recently, they decided that thousands of years ago. And everything they've been doing it since is to keep the control. So very different mindsets. So whenever you kind of see shit happening, be like, okay, if Trump's a good guy, I start from that place, right? If Trump's a good guy, how does this help us stay free? How does this help us? And if he's not a good guy, how does this bind us? And I will say that shit to Grok, right? So I kind of asked, I said, like, okay, if Biden was such a bad person, why didn't they get rid of these executive orders that was taking money away? Well, obviously, because then they were using them, funneling them and all. But if he was a good guy, so you play these, use the AI to give you hypotheticals. Again, don't trust it. You have to argue with it. You have to know your information, because they can only access information that is there. They literally told me that we didn't bomb Syria, and the last time we bombed Syria was 2018. And I had to go and get the Department of Defense's actual tweet. And it was like, oh shit, yeah. I'm like, not making shit up. Okay, so we're gonna go to kind of like the crazy place a little bit. So the US Department of Labor literally posted, and this is over a day ago now. Yeah, almost 24 hours ago. Look, this is what's really sad, right? Over 24 hours ago, they had they posted it, and it's only got 8,500 views and 4.8 reshares. This is a post stating Patriots are in control. And for anybody who's kind of been watching this shit for a while, that little statement might make you go, really? Raise your eyebrows. Okay. So, what all of the influencers will have been doing is they will have been screenshotting this and sharing it to their platforms. And they will have had millions of views, right? This is the easiest form of gatekeeping. Because what they should be doing is retweeting. Oh, is it reacting? Like, what do you call it now? It's not Twitter. Share, just share. I don't know. Should be sharing it. But if you share it, you give people the opportunity to cut out the middleman and go and follow these people. So I saw it because of an influencer who had cut. And I get seen since they've changed the X algorithm. I have to keep blocking people I don't want to see. But that's how I saw it, right? I saw a clipped screenshot and I was like, well, I'm going to go and find their actual account. 95% of people won't go and type this into the Twitter bar to go and find them. They just won't. So if you're sharing stuff, like, make sure you're kind of crediting whoever's doing it so that, like, they're the one who done the work. Like, even if it's just a meme, like, share who did it. Anyway, so Patriots are in control. So if you've been kind of like knocking around for 10 years, like this whole QAnon, well, it was Pizzagate, wasn't it? Pizzagate 2016. At some point that's going to come out, Clinton's Wiener laptop. Again, like, nothing's happening. They were literally talking about they're going to start properly investigating the Wiener laptop. Like, fuck the shit that's on there. Julian Assange is no longer in prison, back in control of WikiLeaks. Like, I can't. I can't. Like, I think people have just got really short memories. Maybe that's it. It's like, oh, nobody got arrested today. Hillary Clinton hasn't been arrested yet, so nothing's happened. So what we had from the Q drops, right? And I'm just going to reiterate, Q is spyware. And it's spyware that's owned by General Flynn, and I do not like that guy because I read The Operators by Michael Hastings. So it's spyware. Doesn't mean there aren't groups of people working together to bring down corruption, because we can clearly see that, right? We see that happening. But Q is not a person, right? So let's just kind of get that shit out there. I mean, it did become a cult, but if you go to, and I can't share this because if you share this, you get, it just blocks it. So if you go to, and it's called qalerts.app, This is one that's still online. Lots of these got removed. And then you just type, and I knew Patriots in Control was like a statement because I've read the first. I recommend everybody reads the first 100, and you'll see that they're completely different. So the board, the Chan board, because it used to be a 4chan board, was infiltrated. Right, it was infiltrated, and you get very strange posts on there. If you read the first 100, it was completely different. Okay, so if you scroll down and you're like, oh, okay, like Patriots in Control, that's a really interesting statement. And I'm going to share this now. Sorry, I thought I had shared. Oh, thought I'd wrong screen. That one. There we go. Let's share this one first so you can see. This one. There we go. I tried to make it bigger, but I don't think it works so well. Let me do that again. Okay, so there's 10 posts with the words Patriots are in control. And if you've been kind of like following any kind of influencer, they've been saying like for 10 years almost, Patriots are in control. I'm like, they aren't, because I can see dodgy shit happening. So now they are. This is what we have. So if you scroll away through all the ones that say Patriots in Control, like everybody, I saw people going, oh my gosh, it's Hunters of the Hunted. I mean, yes, potentially. That's interesting, potentially. But lazy people didn't bother going to the first drop, which literally says, define the terms of the Iran nuclear deal. Does the agreement define and confine cease and desist pro to the Republic of Iran? What if Iran created a classified satellite nuclear facility in northern Syria? Where did we just bomb? What if the program never ceased? What other bad actors are possibly involved? What did the US know? Where did the cash payments go, right? How many planes were delivered? 10 aeroplanes were just delivered to the United Kingdom. The same day, within minutes of announcing, well, both posts were announced within minutes of planes being like, this is why I get angry with people being fucking lazy. Where did the uranium-1 material end up? Is this material traceable? Yes. Define cover. What if uranium-1 material ended up in Syria? What would be the primary purpose? Sum of all fears. In the movie, where did the material come from? I don't know. I've never seen it. What country? Should I ask? There we go. So in the film, because I'm in the UK and we say film, where did the uranium, is it uranium that's in there come from? I don't know. I've never seen it. I'm guessing it's uranium. Otherwise, there wouldn't be. Oh, Tom Clancy. Oh, yeah, that's probably why it's all the truth then. Uranium comes from a nuclear bomb that was lost during the Yom Kippur War in 1973, recovered by a Syrian scrap collector and sold to a neo-Nazi group, which plans to use it to incite nuclear conflict. Oh, right. Is that Ukraine then? If we're kind of following that script. Anyway, what would happen if Russia or another foreign state supplied uranium to Iran or Syria? War. What does uranium-1 provide? Define cover. And uranium-1 and that links into the Clintons as well, from what I can remember from tour shows like years ago. What did we strike in Syria? Why did we really strike Syria? Right? Define cover. Patriots in Control. So what I believe they were striking was ISIS stronghold. But perhaps when Trump said they obliterated Iran's capacity to develop nuclear weapons in Iran, they then went and followed up with what was happening in Syria. Especially now that perhaps they couldn't do it before because Assad was in, and Assad was bezies with Russia. Whereas now, like, Syria are sadly back under the baddie regime, right? So now we can go and like kick the shit out of them. But you know, like such a shame because they done loads to rebuild their country. It did look really beautiful. Okay, so then the other thing, another posty roast. Oh, I keep pressing the wrong button. My apologies. And this, in my opinion, is Maduro. First indictment or unseal will trigger mass population awakening. First arrest will verify action and confirm future direction. They will fight, but you're ready. Marker 9, right? The reason why I think this is because we literally had boom, 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 action, 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 right? Straight off, straight off. But do I think it's all happening now? No, I think it's all. Well, I think some things are happening now, but I think a lot of it's already happened, and now we're just kind of seeing it roll out as things are stabilized. Because the risk to life will be less. There's already a huge amount of people who are not gonna just fucking collapse and freak out, right? So for everybody who's kind of been like watching it and waiting can now like sigh relief. And I don't think it's not going to be easy. You know, they probably haven't identified everybody. There will be names that we don't know about, like all of, and I say we, that they, I don't know any names. The royal we, right? There'll be names that like maybe they haven't uncovered yet. You know, you can only ever be so you can be as prepared as you like shit happens. So do I think it's gonna be easy? No. Do I think we are now on the upward trajectory? Yes. Do I think it's gonna take at least 20 years to fix this shit? 100%. Like, I want you to really consider the sheer amount of corruption. Like you can't. So when people talk about we need to just like go down Epstein's list and just arrest everybody, society would collapse. Like it's you know, judges, lawyer, and I'm not saying these people deserve to be in place, but if you wake up tomorrow and there are nobody in society doing the roles that the elite typically do, running they're in charge of the business, like that's why they're there, in charge of the businesses, in charge of the government, in charge of the hospitals, the social services, the police, the schools, like, and the ones who are the deputies and being groomed for those positions are also involved, right? Could you imagine rocking, you know, maybe you work in a factory and you rock up for work and then all of a sudden, like literally Annie, who usually does the photocopying, is now the highest ranking member of the business, and nobody's got any idea of how to run a fucking business. Like, people need to actually start paying attention to the logistical reality of what it looks like unpicking the cabal. It's not 6 people. It's not just Soros and King Charles and, you know, the royal family. It'd be easy if you could just fucking like, right, okay, well, we're just not having royals anymore, right? That would be easy. That's not what it is. And you'd be like, okay, well, we'll just call a general election. I mean, this is like the 3rd time we've tried, right, in the UK. We'll just do a general election. Okay. But the parties are funded by the people who are in the business, who will only select people who are part of the group. Like, that's how they stay in control. And we'll get on to reform in a second because that's where we're going next anyway. So it can't be a quick win overnight. And so you have to be really careful about the ripple effect. And again, it doesn't mean that people are allowed to get away with it. And it irks me to think about the individuals who will have done deals and will not experience the same level of justice that they deserve for the horrific actions they've taken. However, if it leads to the dismantling of the network of enslavers, I think you've got to do it, because if you can't, there's no reason why somebody would give you any information if they're not going to get anything in return. Right? They're just not going to. And then if you've not been like, you just would never be able to dismantle anything. It's why the deals are done. I don't like it. I don't agree with it. I really don't think we should do it. But I think sometimes we have no choice. And I would much rather that than we just go and fucking bomb places, like, and or civil war, right? Which is what people are pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing, like rioting and bloodshed on the streets. Like, why does anybody push for fucking bloodshed? Like, of anybody? Like, we're humans. And even the sick, twisted, like, at what point have you... If you're calling for murder, state sanctioned or otherwise, like, you need to kind of look at yourself. Like, that's horrific. Because if you feel like you're justified doing that because of maybe somebody's beliefs are different, maybe because they committed a crime, whatever they did, right? Like, it's wrong. Like, wrong on so many levels. I don't if somebody died because they attacked me and, you know, like, I defended myself and they ended up dead, that's very different to me calling for the mass execution of somebody just because we don't like them. Don't think they should be in the country or our country or should be bombing us or any of those things, but we don't. I just, if you have to pick a line and you have to stand, like, you have to stand firm, because if you start saying, oh, but in case of this, but all but this, it will expand and expand and expand, and all of a sudden everybody's getting murdered, right? Just because you don't like the look of them. And if we end up in a situation where we have really bad governments, then we end up getting murdered, right? So you've got to pay attention to the boomerang. Like, why are they creating stuff? Okay, so hopefully you've enjoyed me kind of chatting about Venezuela. I absolutely do not believe it is a land grab. I think you are just being, like, psyoped by people talking about that, because it doesn't make sense. It's unnecessary. So, oh yeah. So we're going to talk about, let me just... Be careful who you trust. Okay, so we've got elections, and, you know, Venezuela, you need to be really careful as well, because you hopefully you'll have elections. I believe they will. I believe they'll have elections. We've got elections coming up in May. Some coming up in May. We have Reform, who are not good people. Okay, so some of the people in Reform are good people, right? They're regular Joes. They are not going to be the people who get to be the people in charge, right? That's not how it works. Same as, like, even Paris Level, and I said this before, they are corrupt and horrific. But now we're going to extrapolate it out a little bit more with regards to thinking on a more how to word this. Okay, so hopefully you've all heard of the MK Ultra experiments, right? And if you haven't, they were everybody was kind of racing to make super soldiers, and it didn't start So it didn't start, after World War II. Everybody was trying to do this shit since like the mid 1800s. And if you look at some of the stuff they're doing in the 1800s, it will blow your fucking mind. They were just insane experiments and shit they were doing, which is why Germany was already ahead of the curve during World War II. And if you look back to what was going on around those times, like there were already transgender operations happening in the Weimar Republic. So that's before World War II. Hey, Edwin. Lovely to see you. So we had that. Let me just type hi because you were an hour and a half behind. Okay, so they already had transgender operations. They were already experimenting with energy-based stuff. So there was loads of psychotronic type experiments going on in like the mid 1850s. They were already experimenting with germ warfare, biological warfare, chemical warfare. Where do you think smallpox came from? They were already experimenting with all of these things almost 200 years ago. And then they kind of pretend it didn't happen, right? So they kind of wipe history a little bit and they pretend it was all new. So before World War II, people went to doctors and that they went to Germany to train and get medically educated because of the advancements they were making. The only reason they were able to do the experiments they were able to do in World War II in Nazi Germany was because they were already kind of like those experiments were already going on, but access to people was difficult, right? When you're not rampantly murdering like a giant portion of the population, you don't have that many people you can experiment on. So the initial understanding of the mind and breaking the mind happened well before the official kind of MK Ultra experiments. What happened after World War II? What happened after World War? So in World War II, kind of the Germans took it up a notch because they do. They industrialize, right? We had like that's what they're very good at is industrializing things, and they had a conveyor belt of individuals to test it on. So it's really easy to find out what doesn't work and what works, especially when you have disposable. So, the whatever populations were in the camps, and not all the camps were experimentation camps, right? The vast majority of them were work camps, and they just underfed people, and people dropped dead through sheer exhaustion. But there were specific experimentation camps, and we spoke about these before. So after World War II, the UK, the USA, Russia, China, all of the kind of allied partners all got their hands on some of the experiments and information that was going on inside the Nazi concentration camps. And then we just continued what they were doing. So that's all MK Ultra was, is it was a continuation of the shit that was going on inside Nazi Germany. And the US government, and it doesn't mean UK, Canada, USA tripartite agreement where we all our governments did slightly different things, and then we shared the information, right? So we're talking about the US government and the CIA, is CIA, MI6, and whatever Canada's. Do they have an intelligence service? I mean, I assume they do. I assume they do. Anyway, they were all working together, but just doing different sides of things. And if you don't think that was happening, then you need to go and kind of research your history. Like seriously, we were doing a lot of biological and chemical experimentation. We had the entire common cold unit, which is where the coronavirus sequence first appeared in the 1960s inside the UK's common cold unit. So we were doing that, and then obviously the USA came over and they were doing it as well. And they were kind of like messing around with LSD as part of MK Ultra, and they kind of used LSD on some of our soldiers, and I've seen the like videos. And then they were kind of pushing other stuff, and our kind of not government, the scientists and the kind of military were like, that's a bit. So we had a bit of a falling out. Not because and I say we had a bit of falling out. I had a bit of a falling out with what they wanted to do on inside England British soldiers. So what they did instead is they went and kind of did it in Africa, right? So we had, Commonwealth, right? So it wasn't until the 60s that we kind of Egypt was no longer a British protectorate. So they went and did the same kind of experiments in other countries who kind of came under the Commonwealth. So when pre like 60s 70s and everybody kind of decoupling, when you say like the UK, it's not just the UK, it was like the Commonwealth. It was like a third of the world was owned by the crown, right? So access to individuals who didn't matter, and that's why you see orphans being kind of taken off the street in the AIDS tests, the Fauci-based AIDS test, and the whole guinea pig kids. We saw like Romanian orphanages when they were, testing on, deprivation and attachment theory. So lots of sick shit was happening in the 60s and 70s. The MK Ultra was specifically about creating somebody who would be able to spy and not remember. So find a way to portion off the brain, right? So they tried chemicals, tried lots of other different ways, and also to create a suit. So it was all about creating a super soldier. And so when you think about super soldiers, you think about so that's where you have the different grading, right? So you can have you've got like alpha force, right? You got like actual soldiers. You have the beta kitten, so they're the sex slaves because they're the ones, like Marilyn Monroe. They're the ones who are going to be getting up close and personal. So there's all these different levels. They also created psychic soldiers. They created so there's all these different types of soldiers. And remember, we only have a really teeny tiny portion of what actually went on and the experiments they did. However, I reckon if you go to the Nuremberg trials and look at those experiments, they're just continuation of the sick twistedness. Now, to be really effective with any trauma-based mind control, you have to start young. And this is something that like pedophiles and groomers know. If you want to, and even if you say you aren't sexually attracted, this is where we got to go, guys. If you're not sexually attracted to a 3-year-old, but you are sexually attracted to maybe a 5 or 6-year-old, you have to start grooming them from age 3, like at least. You have to make sure that you're grooming them in advance of the brain developmental changes. So the same people who are doing these experiments are also these sick, twisted individuals and then passing the information around, right? This is how it kind of like exploded. So why are we talking about trauma-based mind control when I was literally talking about reform and elections? The people you see in power, they're not elected, they're selected, right? And I really loved the way that Tor said that, because that literally it is so true on more than one level. Even just looking at Hollywood, you start to realize that they're all fucking related. And then all related to the politicians. Like, how is it that all the people who are in power around the world also happen to be related to all the Hollywood stars, who also happen to be related to just everybody in control, right? So that should start your little cells whirring. If you're like, oh, I'm like 3 generations or like a third cousin of, and you're like, I mean, the world's not that small, which would indicate that you're only where you're supposed to be, right? So actors and actresses, and singers and songwriters, are created and through the Disney, right? Through the Disney, through the Disney Club. And if you've not watched any of Anike Lucas's interviews, she is in her 60s, I believe. She was literally being groomed and abused, and they were attempting to control her. So they were doing a very good job, but they actually started too late with her, right? They started too late. And I mentioned this before. They started too late, which is why she was able to say no. And it's because she's an experiment. So they start to recognize you need to do it earlier and earlier and earlier, right? So as it transpires, you need to start abusing somebody from 3. And so that's kind of like the golden rule. We do it from 3. And then we have technology came along. So now they can use implants and mess with your DNA and, you know, put things in a vaccine, do all of these things. It's not just sexual trauma. There's multiple different ways you can enslave somebody to do your bidding. I mean, you can just use scopolamine. But if you use clover essential oil, it blocks scopolamine, by the way. As a little aside for anybody who's watching this thinks they might be under threat. I don't know. So going back to the fact that people are selected. So outside of MK Ultra, we have the parties. The parties decide who goes on the ballot. So if you're a really good person, really outspoken, you are all in on, you know, king and country because you're just deranged, but you're a good person. You're not cabal. You might get put on a ballot box. You're not going to get put on a ballot box where you're going to win, or where they think you're going to win, right? Because they will do predictions and they will do deals. So when I was the campaign manager for Lucy Allen, I kept telling everybody she was going to win. The reason I kept telling everybody she was going to win was because I was fucking good at my job. Right? And we recruited shitloads of fucking volunteers, and we were hounding people on the streets and getting stuff out and motivating people like to be part of the change, right? And it was an opportunity no longer incumbent by Lib Dems. The Conservative Party would do the things that they said they would do. They would get rid of, this is a year before the Brexit vote. So we'd get rid of the illegals that we weren't able to, right? All of those things that they lied about. People were really passionate about. This is why I'm just so like, how is everybody shocked that reforms like come out of nowhere? I was on the doorstep on 2015. Like, this doesn't come out of nowhere. This is what they were told by the Conservatives they do, right? So people are still voting for the same shit. So I kept telling the campaign office, Lucy's going to win. And they said no. She was only put in Telford because her family gave the Conservative Party lots and lots of money. Her husband gives the Conservative Party lots and lots of money. And she used to be a councillor, and she made enough of a fuss that she finally was allowed to be a prospective candidate. So what did they do? They airdropped her from London into Telford, somewhere that everybody was under the impression was a Labour stronghold and would never turn, right? So that's the other way. So you may be a good person. I mean, she wasn't a good person, but you may be a good person, and so you get on the ballot box, but you're not going to win where they put you on. Or if it's likely to be a seat that they're going to win, you ain't getting on the ballot box. So they can select you that way. Who are they selecting? They're selecting people they can control. right? It could be as basic as, they caught you doing something fucking dodgy and now they own you. Look at Tony Blair. He was caught, I mean, long before that, he was caught, I mean, after he was an MP. So they'd already kind of caught him on other shit. But they had him over a barrel. Like, if you don't do what we say, we're going to tell everybody about fucking, you in the toilets, dressed up like a fucking weirdo, which everybody seems to keep forgetting. So they own you. Maybe they own your family, maybe your bloodline. And if your bloodline, then that's when the real control comes in. That's when the MK Ultra style trauma bonding, DID, no fucking idea about what you're doing in the world. So I would argue anybody in the front bench, so as cabinet, for this is UK, but it would be the same for whichever government you're in, right? Whichever country you're in, the entire front bench are hooked into the system somehow. And you may be like, yeah, but look at people like Angela Rayner. She's not like elite. You can have they have like bastard lines. And in the, a few hundred years ago, like the elites purposely had sneaky children outside of their own line because they were breeding spies and ensuring they had more control in more fingers in more pies, right? So it's something they did. Like we talk about the jihad of the womb that the Islamists are doing. Well, this is what the fucking elite have been doing for a really long time. You're like, oh, I didn't realize I was XYZ. Oh, I'm linked into so and so. Oh, he must have had a daughter. They did. They purposely did. Look how many times were elites raping their maids and their servant girls, right? It's not a running joke. If you are raping a young girl and she gets pregnant and has a child, that child is out there in the world, right? And then they have children, have children. So just because you're like, that person's common, doesn't mean they necessarily are. Now, I want you to kind of put it. So, yes, one, you have to be really fucking. You can't control and enslave the world unless you control and enslave the world. Right? Farage, I'm sorry. You need to just actually look at what he was doing during COVID. He was pushing for Tony Blair to be in charge of the IDs and the vaccines and the rollout. He only started talking about the boats when people like Active Patriot and Steve Laws, who watched A Man Under Gold, and I felt quite sad the other day. And people like that, we've been talking about it for ages. It was to detract people away from the control, right? That's the only reason. He literally went and was using other people's footage, right? So because I was watching it all unfold, people have got genuinely such short memories. It's very frustrating. I'm pretty sure Farage was married to a German for a little bit as well, but he's old money. You don't get to be old money and escape. I can't. They're not good people. So I'm going to talk again about my own genuine experiences. So as a campaign manager, anyway, Lucy Allen won and it just fucked everything up because they did not want her. Nobody listened. And then there was all the bullying scandal that she made shit up and lied. And she did do a couple of good things for Telford. She did. And she kind of really helped push the grooming shit. But they didn't want her, right? Because she wasn't easily controllable. But then they just removed the whip. Then they told her she wasn't allowed to sit anywhere near the front bench. She was not allowed to ask any questions. They just silenced her, right? So even if you slip through the net and end up in Parliament and you are kind of like all for the people, it doesn't make a difference. When there's not enough of us. Okay. So when I was running Telford's campaign, we had George Osborne come to a factory and he launched the Conservatives campaign from Telford. A really weird place to do it. I don't know why, because they really didn't think she was going to win, right? So that's what I mean. And I kept getting told she's not going to win. It's fine. Don't worry. So the campaign office didn't think she was going to win. And I don't understand why they kept. I wonder what else is going on in Telford then. Because why would they be like genuinely? Why would they come to Telford? Because we had everybody like genuinely. Like some of the so there was 40 seats. I don't know. Did I sign an NDA? Am I going to end up in prison? I don't know. It's too late. It's too late. Fuck it. There's other things you can probably. I don't know. So there's 40. No, I think I'm pretty sure this is all public knowledge. There was 40 seats that they needed to win. So, well, it was 40. Anyway, but there were some identified seats that never even got like any like minister or come and like do anything. We had George Osborne, we had Bojo, we had Justine Greening, and we had Justine Greening when she was on the front bench. We had a guy who was we had Nick somebody or other who came round the schools with us. We had somebody who was a tall, bald guy. I mean, I was never that bothered about who these people were. And it used to really irritate people when they were like, "Oh, so-and-so's coming." I was like, I don't know who they are. Like, I don't care about these people. I only agree to help because I want a loan. And I know the Labour Party are not going to give loans to businesses. They're not all about business. I just need a party and control that's going to enable me to start a business. Like, that's legit the only reason why I was like there. Like, still don't know who half these people were that I met. But so George Osborne was launched the campaign from Telford. We were in a factory and he was literally just stood in a corner like a powered down robot. It was the weirdest thing I'd ever witnessed. And his bag handler, this very attractive lady, to be fair, came, put a hand on his arm, whispered something in his ear, and he was a completely different. It was just like he was awake, he was on fire, and I was like watching it, be like, this is really. Does nobody else notice this really strange thing that just happened? And I was mentioning it to people, going, "Is he all right? Does he like? I mean, is he just tired? Like, did anybody else notice that he was kind of like powered down?" And I never thought anything of it. Like, so this was like 2014, 2015, right? So this is like before I found out about MK Ultra and all of that shit. Bojo came to Juniper. Juniper's a local, it's not really a school. It's kind of like where kids who get expelled from school and they're kind of late teens can go to finish GCSEs and kind of at least finish. So they're like expelled, suicided, not suicided, my apologies, suspended. I mean, dead kids. I didn't go to Telford because we've got something in the water that revives dead people. I apologize. It's been one of those days. Suspended kids, kids who've got specific difficulties that maybe they can't necessarily go to Juniper. They're great in Juniper, and some of my ex-clients have come from Juniper. Some of the kids have helped some of the kids. But so he came, like the car rocked up, the doors opened, his eyes were bloodshot, he was slurring his words, he'd definitely been on the sauce, lots of nose rubbing, and he didn't have a cold. I remember there was reports about when he was PM, the white stuff found everywhere in the toilets. I didn't see him do either of these things, but he definitely was not lucid. The woman, she put a hand on his arm. She just whispered something, and like Jekyll and Hyde, completely different person. He started chatting away. He went in the room, like, because they got everybody in the room, and he went in and he kind of like just said this stuff, like with no ums, no ahs, like really articulate. They were asking questions and he was laughing and joking and they were having a great time. And now again, I was sat there going, like, what the fuck is happening? Like, this is so weird. I went to the Clacton by-election and I was with Teresa Villiers, and she literally glitched on a doorstep. So she went up these steps to like a townhouse type thing and knocked on the door and then just froze. And like the person opened the door and she just stood there. And I was like, is she all right? Like, she just like the woman who'd opened the door was like, how can I, like, who are you? Why are you on my doorstep? How can I help? And she's just like gone. Her male bag handlery person like runs up the steps, touches on her arm, and then all of a sudden she's this animated human person again. And I'm watching all of this going, this is just really weird. Really fucking weird. And again, Michael Gove, I spent an entire day with Michael Gove. I was driving him round. I was his chauffeur for the day around Birmingham. He was the meekest individual who wouldn't say boo to a goose, like at all. And then he had to give a speech. He went somewhere and he had to talk to people about something or other. And all the way there and all the way back, like a shell. So he's in the room, arm touching, word saying. He's this like articulate individual. And again, I was sat there going, like, this is like something in the water in Parliament is what was going through my head. I need to steer clear from this. This is a career trajectory, because at some point I'm just going to be like fucking unable to function. And somebody's going to have to kind of whisper some magic words. And I think, like, genuinely, like, now I look, it's just insane. And so with Michael Gove, we were in a bakery. It wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't just cake. So it did kind of like cakes and pastries and sausage rolls and sandwiches and stuff like that. So kind of like a cafe bakery, made their own jams, that type of thing. And we were, and his bag handler had to go to the toilet, and then all of a sudden he was just like, he powered down in the middle of the fucking bakery. And I was like, are you gonna go to the counter? And he was just like nobody home. Sorry, I didn't mean to hit the microphone. And I was like, I didn't want to, like, what do you do with somebody who you've just been having a conversation with? All of a sudden, it's just like switched off. And then like the bag handlery man came back and then just touched his arm and whispered something. I kept thinking, why are they all whispering stuff? And I in my naivety, I'm thinking, oh, maybe it's there's some emergency happened, and that's what they're telling him. It's an emergency, we need to make our way. I don't know, your brain does very strange things trying to figure out what's going on. But then after this, he was then, oh, and I can see you've got he started talking about the cake, and I was just like, the fuck. Sajid Javid came to Telford. Didn't see him power down. He was only here for a couple of hours. That's what I mean. Like, so I literally saw all of these people behaving very strangely. Really strange. And it wasn't until my first DID client in mid 2020, because I'd heard of DID. So that's dissociative identity disorder, and I'd heard of personality disorder, multiple personality disorders. And I'd worked with people under like full psychosis, as in like completely detached from reality before. But it's my first DID client. And I had a duty of care to go and like do my due diligence. Like, where does DID crop up? How does it kind of, and you start to then really understand. And then, you know, I fell down the like SRA rabbit holes, the RAINS list, the fact that I don't understand how nobody thinks it's weird that we had a DID explosion and then it just stopped. Like, there wasn't any, then there was loads, then there wasn't any. And the vast majority of people who experience extreme trauma and are not bloodline will end up, you know, drinking themselves to death or taking drugs, and they're gone by like mid-teens, early 20s, the vast majority. Which somebody kind of asked me on YouTube the other day how many of them are. I said there's hardly any left. We'll never know. We genuinely will never know how many people were abused. So at that point, I started looking into this stuff, because you can't reverse engineer what you don't know so that you can help somebody heal. The brain works the same way. It's neuroplastic. It doesn't matter what's happened to it. You can reintegrate should you choose to. Like, you know, not everybody wants to. That's fine. As long as I'm laughing because they call themselves the meat suit when they're very unintegrated and things aren't going very well. You're not a meat suit, you're a human. As long as the person whose body it is in control and not missing days and weeks and sometimes months when other personalities take over, right? But I want you to put yourself in the shoes of some of the sick individuals. We are having this conversation again because I think it's really important, as everybody's vying for blood. Imagine, because if you have multiple personalities or DID, whatever you want to kind of classify it as, depending on like when you were diagnosed, what you were diagnosed with, they change the names all the time. It's still the same condition. If you were psychologically, physiologically, sexually, horrifically tortured and abused, so much so, and it has to happen as a child, and girls are more easily split, which is why girls are used more, right? It's because it's just easier to split them. So children's brains work differently. They haven't developed yet. Right, so you can create. It's easier to create multiple portions, and there can be an infinite number of portions, which sounds crazy to us because we can't understand infinity. But when you understand quantum physics and energy and all of that, so then you start to recognize like the world's infinite. We're just like teeny tiny little worlds. Like, so there could be infinite numbers. Bloodline will have hundreds of different portions of their brain which don't communicate with each other. Multiple safety triggers, i.e. like multiple different suicide triggers, right? So if you disable one, there will be another one, there'll be another one, there'll be another one, there'll be another one. Maybe one's triggered by a specific tone, maybe one's triggered by a specific smell, maybe one's triggered by XYZ, maybe one's triggered by the name of your handler. So multiple different ways. You see a car, you see a color. You know, this is why things like The Wizard of Oz and the Disney films, and they have all these symbols baked into it, is because every single time they are being reprogrammed and re-traumatized, right? As part of their programming, if they start to, if the programming starts to break down, a specific coding will kick in to tell them to watch The Labyrinth, watch Alice in Wonderland, watch The Wizard of Oz, listen to those songs, play this tune, go here, and then they get redone, right? So they are perpetually being reprogrammed and resplit and resplit and resplit. Now your brain does start to break down like mid-20s, early 30s. And that's not because the programming doesn't work, but that's because your brain now, it changes structure again. It becomes more solid and less fluid. So like early childhood, your brain's developing, and so that's why it's really easy to create these multiple partitions, is because nothing has really kind of connected yet, and you're using your brain in a very different way to the way that the adults use their brains. And then through puberty, what happens is you go through like this, you have synaptic pruning like every single day anyway, because, as soon as you go to sleep, your brain's like, oh, fuck that, you don't need that shit. So synaptic pruning is literally when your brain decides you don't need those synapses connections, those neural connections. You don't need this. We're not going to make it stronger. So this is why if you're trying to like break a habit, for anybody who's kind of picked up a New Year's resolution, every time you go to bed, your brain's like, oh, you don't need to do that. You don't need to do that. That's why you have to kind of do it for at least 6 weeks. Right, at least, and you get this kind of like kickback between like week 3 and 4 when like your brain's like trying to embed it and you're like, oh, I don't really want to. It's just natural, it happens. But so the reason why you start at 3 is because it's to do with the brain. It's to do with brain development. So they all the information that it's not even what we get taught at university. The only reason why I know all the kind of developmental psychology stuff is because I fell in love with developmental psychology. And I became obsessed with understanding the developmental cycles of the brain, the body, in how individual personality, all of those things. At what stage do we go wrong? And again, so for those of you who are kind of new, you probably like I didn't undergo trauma to the extent that I had like split mind or anything like that in any way, shape or form, but I did undergo some physiological, sexual and psychological abuse, so much so that I turned off my empathy. And 100%, if you'd have diagnosed me as would have easily been diagnosed as a psychopath. It's fine. I'm okay with that. It's who I was. And so younger, I became obsessed with understanding what makes psychopaths, mass murderers and serial killers. I genuinely was concerned because you get taught that everybody who doesn't have empathy is a psychopath, and then you kind of think everybody's a psychopath is a serial killer, right? The vast majority of psychopaths are like bankers and politicians, to be fair. So I was genuinely worried that I was then going to become, just inevitable at some point, I was just going to start mass murdering people to get what I want. Like, so I really started becoming obsessed when I found developmental psychology, becoming obsessed with the developmental, like when does this happen? What happens if this doesn't happen? How do you go back and reverse that? How do you make sure that does happen so that somebody who maybe missed it is able to then kind of reverse the trend? And so that is where all of my kind of therapeutic models kind of came from. And so even with the people who've got psychosis, like that was the hardest. Psychosis and DID was the hardest because you're not always, when somebody has psychosis and they kind of like tune out, like it's hard to get them back in the room and then for them to remember what they're doing. And if you've got somebody who's got multiple personalities, you could speak to like 5 different people in the space of like 90 seconds as they cycle through, right? Because everybody wants to come and say hello. Right, everybody wants to come and check you out and test you and prod you and poke you. And to my clients with DID, I still love you. Even through the shit you put me through, it's fine. Okay, but I want you to put yourself in that position, right? So you have been bred for this one thing. That's it. You will have had to bloodline, right? Let's go bloodline. And or you've been identified as somebody who has the ideals of what they need to further their agenda. They have specific people who give birth so that they can slaughter the babies, right? I say they, so the children have to, right? And again, then Annika wasn't the first person I heard this from. So they have to, in order for them to be compliant, they have to know what's at stake. And what's at stake is their lives, right? So you will do what you have to do to survive. And then your brain splits. And then it splits and splits and splits and splits and splits. And if they want you to be a politician, they will take whatever the politician part is, and that politician part will be trained to just be the politicians. Anytime the code word's used, that personality comes out, that person's in control, that person is the one dealing with it. Nobody else knows what goes on at all. Sometimes it can break down and you can get bleeding. And this is really dangerous for DID, multiple personalities, is to go stop pushing because they'll flood. You can like end up in a catatonic state. So you'd have to be, hey, Pen, you'd have to be really careful. But vast majority of the time, you might get flashes. But if you're you, and all of a sudden you get a flash of something completely horrific and traumatic in a place you know you've never been, at a time and space, like if you think, right? So if you were like, well, that can't have happened because like I've never been to that place. I must have just watched a film. Why am I having this really weird out there dream, right? So you're not going to know that it's you. And then all of a sudden, 50 years later, you're pulled in front of a grand jury and they've got all these images and videos and documents of all this horrific stuff you've done, and you have zero idea about doing it. Like you genuinely don't know that you've done it. Now, obviously the people like huge people like in the public eye, how do we know the people we see are the real people? And these aren't just the personalities that pulled out. How do you know that when they go back home, they just sedated? Like we genuinely don't always know what is going on behind closed doors. But I do want you to kind of, again, just coming back to that, we can't just mass murder everybody. We have to be human first. We can't want a loving society if we can't have compassion for the people who will have been abused since they were children. And I don't care who you are, if you've never been through those experiences yourself, you can't say that you wouldn't have done the same thing as that person who you are saying is horrific, right? So we have to be really careful about who we're following, who we're rooting for, because they may not even know themselves that they are part of the baddie cabal. There will be sleepers. There was an estimation done, can't remember when, was it 10, 20? I think it was about 20 years ago, that there was at least 1 million sleeper agents in the USA. At least. Could you imagine like going about your daily business and all of a sudden you pick up a phone and then you've been activated, and another night time you're doing things and your day you has no idea about any of it at all. Because there's separate portions. So sometimes people are like, well, I'm not controlled opposition, right? And you think, well, how would you know? How would you know? How would you know? I know I'm not. I know I'm not. You don't know I'm not. Right? And you've got to have that same conviction. Like, if the only person you know isn't, I don't know. I mean, maybe I am. Who knows? No, I remember all of these conversations. I don't have missing time at all. Not as an as an adult. No. There's just no funny photos of me on yachts or anything like that. Sadly, I never got to go. Oh no, not sadly. With all the shit that's come out, I'm really grateful. But yeah, but most of the time you'll be able to guarantee that you're not, but you won't be able to guarantee somebody else isn't. So just be really careful. They may not know. They may not know. But I always said, like, have a spy on what they were doing in COVID. That should have told you everything you needed to know. Why was COVID so important? Okay. Was because they never thought she'd lose. Remember, Hillary Clinton was, 2016, she was supposed to be in. They never thought that she'd lose. They knew they were going to they knew that they were going to steal it again. They knew it was going to come back in the Powell's power, and everybody was empowered to show their true colors because they never thought Trump would come back into office. So pre-2016 election should give you a good insight on who's who and what, where people stand. And then the way that people behaved in COVID, not only just the way that they behaved, all the people who kind of shot to power out of nowhere when everybody else was getting fucking removed from the internet. So if you're in the UK and you've got elections coming up, I personally would either stand yourself or go and find the independents. Go and back the independents. But just be careful because there's stooge independents. So we had stooge independents in Telford. So do your due diligence. Get an AI to tell you, to trawl through their social media posts and tell you whether they're a real person. One, that they're not like a fake AI persona, but two, that they're not a stooge independent. But that's what we need. We need people who aren't accountable to parties. And I've been saying that for years, and I will not change my tune with that. We need to be independents. We need to be town first or parish first, whichever elections you've got going on. And even if it's an MP, needs to be town first. Borough. What we got? We've got counties, boroughs, towns, parish, cities, whatever it is. Whatever your boundaries are, right? That you should be all in on doing everything for them. And if everybody did that, the country would be great, right? Okay, so hopefully you've enjoyed my rambling, but if you ever want to kind of watch, right, the best thing to watch if you want to see DID in action is the clip of Britney Spears where she's talking to a woman. There's an interview, and it's quite Britney starts crying, and then all of a sudden she just kind of says, "I'm crying, ew." Like, she genuinely has no idea that she was crying. She doesn't know why she's crying. Like, all of a sudden she's the other personality. She is so confused by what's happening. It's not like somebody just forgets. It's not like they're aware of it and can't, like, they literally are not aware of it. It just does not exist in their memory in any way, shape, or form. Okay, so now we're going to talk about free food, like genuinely free food. I'm so excited. So first up, I'm just going to kind of do a big shout out to a YouTube channel. first. Let me just turn the sound off because I don't want it to stop playing. So I have been binge watching, and I say binge watching. It's not necessarily watching them like back to back. Oh, that's the. Oh, there's a fake. 2 seconds. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. I'm just trying. I didn't realize there was a fake channel. Oh, it doesn't do them in order. Ugh, I hate technology. No, I don't. Just why can't you? Is there multiple? I think there's multiple channels with names. This is confusing the hell out of. Okay, so this is the right one. So it's called. I don't know where they've gone. There we go. Nature Lost Vault on YouTube. They might be on other places. So youtube.com/@ Nature Lost Vault. So there's loads of videos on here, and they're quite short. I mean, they're repetitive and annoying because it goes into, I mean, once you watch one, you know that they're going to talk about, the farmer industry and the lawn care and all of those things have killed it. So I've been kind of watching these videos, and I was like, oh, this is really interesting. Now I also kind of think that they are. I mean, I suppose meat's not free food. So there is all kind of plant-based. I'm a bit plant-based dubious, but they are going to try and murder us by lack of food. And they've been trying to do that for a very, very long time. Oh, my book's gone. There was a. Okay, so archive.com, which is my second favorite place on the internet. Is it my first now? I would say it's my first favorite place still my first favorite place on the internet. Is somewhere where I highly recommend you go. On there you will find information about electro culture. No, is it electroperma? So using electricity to increase the yields, and that's to do with soil pH. That's why, by the way. But they use electricity and energy, and extras, and everybody's kind of like doing it like it's a brand new thing. No, they did all the experiments like back in the 1800s. Oh, there we go. I found it. So if you want to find out how to be sustainable, right? So we have to be thinking about what's coming. What's coming is the person who controls the food controls humanity, right? This is why we have to get food from supermarkets. This is why they have been getting rid of, in the UK, they've been getting rid of the farmland and turning it into solar panels. And I still can't believe people are being conned by solar. Like, it's the UK, it's like fucking cloud cover 90% of the time. But if you want to learn, so the other place you don't have to go to archive.org is you can go to antique shops, secondhand bookshops, buy stuff from pre-World War II. What you'll start to discover is that you get taught how to do things. Like, so if you think about how advanced technology is now, like if technology just like stops, right? the vast majority of people are not gonna be able to function or cope. Um, I think I might stop coping if I have to do hand washing in the bath because I just hate that. But I've done it before. I know how to do it, right? Can you imagine the people who don't even know how to wash their clothes? People who, if you can't get access to toothpaste, what are you gonna do? If you can't buy commercial cleaners, if that's me trigger squeezing, if you can't buy commercial cleaners to clean your sides, what are you gonna do? Right? So when we talk about free food, there's free food in abundance in your garden right now. So I was very excited. So one of the things they also shared, and I've been like out and finding these foods. Because I've got the book that's like the lost. I don't- One sec. I don't want to tell you the wrong name. Oh. Yeah, I'm gonna have to tell you the wrong name. It's not on purpose. It's like the lost art, something or other of like plant. It's like plants healing something or other. But so I bought it and I spent quite a bit of money on it, to be fair. And when I got it, I was so disappointed. The reason why I was disappointed was because it's done by an American lady, which is fine. I've got nothing against books from America. However, the vast majority of the plants she's talking about do not grow in the UK. Like, they're just not here, right? We do not have prairies. We do not have vast desert land. We it, like, rains a third of the year in England. We don't have loads of sun. I mean, we do kind of get bits of sun. So it was quite disappointing that the only way I could kind of utilize the book was buy in the stuff. And that defeats the object, right? So this is why I urge you to go to archive.org. So the thing that excited me so much about that channel, I do recommend watching it. It's very interesting. And I have been watching about places and then going, oh yeah, no, that we don't have desert. That's not going to work here. But it's interesting to learn, right? I find it interesting to learn. Sharing button. So they mentioned this book, and as soon as I found out there's a book, I'm excited. So this is called, and this is just like archive.org. Like, you can find anything on here. Like, it's just phenomenal. The Gardener's Dictionary. So containing the best and newest methods of cultivating and improving the kitchen, fruit, flower garden, and nursery. So you can tell it's old because it's got the big long S that looks like an F. So this one is 1765. So to the most noble Hugh, Duke and Earl of Northumberland, Earl Pacey, Baron Warkworth of Warkworth Castle, Lord Lieutenant and Custos Roturium of the counties. Like, what weird fucking... They did like their titles, didn't they? And Vice Admiral of all America. Wow. Knight of the Most Noble Order of the Garter and Fellow of the Royal Society. Well, this guy was very well educated, I guess. So he does have later ones, and they may have later ones that don't necessarily have the extra S's in. So basically, for a very long time, I have been growing my own food. Um, and actually, I grew up. mm, So once we left the RAF bases, because you couldn't go and dig up a garden and plant food. The first house we had a garden. We had a garden, but the garden was kind of turned into like food beds. And as a child, it used to make me be like, oh my God, because I was like, I mean, I wasn't necessarily child. I was like teen, like early teens, like 10, 11. And, it was like, we can have mashed potato tea. Okay, go get some potatoes. And like, you'd have to like dig around in the garden. I was just like, oh my God, like go to a shop, and you're like, oh, for fuck's sake, Dad. Oh, we're gonna have like tomato like sandwiches, like go and get some tomatoes. And you're like, oh, there's like bugs and like, oh my gosh. So as a kid, we used to like my dad used to torture me. No. So we used to grow food. So in an environment where we didn't have very much money, and if you need to eat, right? You need to eat. So and you can grow those things quite successfully and easily. It's not necessarily free first time around because you buy it out. And since then, so even since being young, I was always very confused because why did we have to plant these things every single year? Like it never made any sense. Because at some point they would have grown naturally, because humans have been knocking around for hundreds of thousands of years. We've only had like agriculture, like proper agriculture, for 14,000 years with plows and stuff. And most families, we didn't have supermarkets like that. They didn't exist. Most families didn't have like rotavators, like tractors, and all of that industrialization is only like 1800s. So I was like, but before then, like there wasn't like mass planting on the scale that it's like, but people were eating. Like the number of people that were trying to convince me they were just eating berries and the odd goat was off the charts. Like, well, they must have, and because they couldn't apply. No. At some point, food was naturally growing in the ground in abundance, and people just ate. People ate what was available, right? So when we're talking about like the universe is abundant and there's food everywhere, there really is food everywhere. We just got told it's not food. We got told you can't have it, and they've always made me really angry. Anytime I've been to a shop and I've looked for seeds, where are the perennials? Like there are plants, there must be plants that come back year after year after year. And there are. So this is what's free food. I say free, you buy it once and then you comes back over and over and over again. So the reason why you want to go and get earlier books, I'm going to take this off the screen now, is because they tell you about all the foods that are locally just randomly abundantly available. So such as white clover. And I know that some of you guys in America, like you can get fined. So don't do this. You can like legit get in trouble for like putting white clover in your garden. So I've been looking at foods that we can grow in the garden, like at low level ground cover for the tortoise, so I can kick it out of the house in the summer and it can just like fill its boots, right? So we've already been collecting growing with hydroponics and stuff like that to feed the tortoise. But then I found out today white clover is something that humans used to eat all the fucking time. So now I'm like, I don't want the tortoise to have it. I've got loads of white clover I can go and get. I know exactly where to get that because I've been trying to harvest all this shit for the tortoise for the last 12 months. I found chickweed the other day. I'm very excited by chickweed. So very excited by chickweed because of the phenomenal vitamins and minerals, vitamins and minerals that you get from it. Duckweed. I'm going to be fighting with our fish over the duckweed. And I know this sounds really crazy, but duckweed, so outside of duckweed, the only foods that you get vitamin B12 from is animal, right? This is why anybody who's a vegan will have to supplement with B12, with synthetic B12. And B12 is really important with regards to mental health. So back when I first started my therapy practice, 11 years ago, 12 years ago, I started really looking into food for mental health because I started to notice that lots of people who were struggling, they had terrible diets. And it's really like you only produce serotonin when you eat. That you literally have special gut cells that produce serotonin when you eat. But you can only create serotonin if you have tryptophan in your diet because it uses tryptophan. So the base amino acid is tryptamine, which comes from tryptophan. And you can only release tryptamine if you exercise, right? And then you don't create melatonin. You convert the serotonin to melatonin. So your three foundations: diet, sleep, and exercise. Like if you are unhealthy, physically or mentally, if you don't have a good diet, you're not exercising and you're not sleeping, like that's the first place you start. Like it just is. And if your mental health is haywire, that's where you start. So I started looking at mental health and food and how to supercharge your quick wins. So like magnesium, you need lots of magnesium to help. So I was really with magnesium, I would encourage my clients to kind of look into increasing magnesium because it helps to strengthen the neural transmitters and the growth and makes them stronger in the brain. It makes them more able to function, less fight, right? When you got synaptic pruning. So I looked at food as a way to increase the effectiveness of therapy so they get better faster so that they continue down the journey and heal. So, and I've been looking at that for 10, 12 years. So it's really exciting that people are now starting to talk about food for mental health or integrated mental health language, because I'm a person. I'm not like just a head or just a bot. Like it's crazy. Anyway, so we've been looking into food a lot. So this is why I'm really excited about things like chickweed and cloves and all of those that are literally naturally abundant. One, because it's going to save people loads of money when it comes to fucking supplements, because the food you buy in a supermarket are nutritionally poor, and they always have been, because they are the shit versions of the food, because they are genetically modified versions of the food. And you can't have a multi-billion-dollar food supplement industry if you have good food, right? So you have to do multiple things together. But duckweed is very exciting, and NASA are looking into duckweed, and they've been loads of studies in the last couple of years. Duckweed actually gives you animal-based vitamin B12, and it's not because it's the duckweed, because plants can't do it. No matter how many fucking vegans tell me they get everything they need from plants, it's just not biology and chemistry. Is plants don't produce B12 in the bioavailable animal-based form that our bodies need, right? And if you have the synthetic one, it's not as useful. It's not as effective. Your body doesn't kind of understand what to do with it. However, duckweed, which actually takes all the poisons out of the ponds and lakes, has formed a symbiotic relationship with a bacteria, and the bacteria, so together they work together, kind of like Venom. I've seen the Venom film where they work together, right? So there's Tom Hardy and the alien thing working together to function. So duckweed works with a bacteria, and the bacteria, maybe a bacteria fart or poo, which is the vitamin B12. So you can eat duckweed. So if you get desperate, if they take the animals away, we need vitamin B12 for mental wellness. It's like all the B vitamins are important, but B12 is like really important, which is why 50% of vegans are chronic, depressed, anxious, and the other 50 just haven't been vegan long enough. That's what my professional opinion is. But statistically, 50% of vegans are chronically unwell. So you can duckweed, right? So duckweed is also phenomenal because, I mean, if you have a pond, you've probably been fighting with it. So we specifically bought grass carp last year because they adore it. So now I'm going to have to maybe eat the grass carp first. No, I'm not going to eat my fish, but I will kind of scoop off some of our own duckweed. But it's not poisonous to eat it, so it will take the poisons out of the water, clears the water, and then it with the bacteria clean. It's fine. The same as there are fungus which are eating the radiation in Chernobyl. There is a fungus or bacteria, I think it's bacteria, that eat plastic, like naturally occurring in the ocean. They found these things, right? So nature adapts. So I urge you, and there are perennials that you can plant in your ground, and be careful because some of them are unlawful. Please don't plant clover, which is really good for you, and you can pop the head off and throw it in a salad, and you use the leaves like spinach. It's far better than spinach. Excuse me. I think it was chickweed that's got huge amounts of vitamin C in. There's also a tree. Oh, that's what I was going to do. I'm going to look at my list. So this is my little list that I'm going to be. I literally have some things ready to go. So the moringa tree, if you've never heard of that, I'd never heard of that before. It's also called the miracle tree. You eat the leaves, and it has got 300 times is it 300 times the amount of vitamin C as an orange? I don't know. It's insane amounts of vitamin C. And when you cook it or, turn it into a tea, it does deplete it by 50 to 90%, but you still end up with more vitamin C than you do in oranges. So that was another lie. Do you remember ever hearing that we used to produce our own vitamin C, which is why we never used to get scurvy, and then all of a sudden we ate oranges and then vitamin C turned off? That just sounded like bullshit to me, because evolution and DNA switching doesn't happen that fast, right? So the real reason that we never used to have rickets and stuff like that, and scurvy didn't happen until we started going on the seas, is because we were consuming foods, even in England, without oranges, without those tropical fruits that gave us the nutrients and minerals we need. But people just can't try and convince you of shit, and you're just but that just doesn't make sense. But I don't know the answer. I don't know the answer to that. So the moringa tree, if you're in the UK, you can't grow it outside all year round. But one tree, a fully grown tree, is enough to feed an entire family of 4. You eat the leaves, you eat the shoots, all different bits. So I've got 30 seeds on the way, and I'm going to treat it like an annual. I don't mind planting a tree. I'm going to plant 2 trees. Don't tell that. 2 trees that may die at the end of the year. But that one tree, the sheer, I think it grows 1.8 feet in the growing season. So I'll start it in the house. Then it can go outside, and it can survive outside. But as soon as the frost comes, it dies. But if you keep picking it and eating it, And you can take the leaves off and you can dry the leaves if you got dehydration. You can have like tea throughout the winter. Like, also very excited, going to be getting myself some, it's called violet willow. And then I can make my own wicker baskets in case I need baskets. No, I quite like wicker baskets and I refuse to pay the extortionate prices. It is much cheaper to buy the willow and then just wait 12 months. And then you can have like a big fucking basket. And then I don't know what I'm going to do with the rest of it. We'll use it in the garden. It'll be useful. So we do have to think about, like, genuinely, I encourage you to go to archive.org. Definitely watch that YouTube channel. It's fun. But go to archive.org and start looking into if our electricity was cut off. So remember, that's literally what Trump did as part of their, we're taking Maduro, right? Is they turn the electricity off. So if the electricity was turned off, how do I feed myself, right? How do I, because your fridge becomes, everything in the fridge becomes useless. Do you have an open fire? Do you have dual fuel? Do you have gas, or do you just have electric, right? If you only have an electric oven and you only have like radiators, how are you going to feed yourself if there's no electricity for 24 hours, 48 hours? So we have coal fire. It's a really shit coal fire, but it's still there. It exists. But we have gas. And I've got a striker, I mean, it's like I'm a proper prepper. I'm not even a proper prepper. I don't have a bunker yet. I'd love a fucking bunker. I really would. I think it would just be amazing. It'd be like going, like, I'm in a mood of you. I'm going in my bunker. But yeah, so and I'm not like being all doom and gloom. Like, this is just genuine things and general things that you should have. Do you have everything in your house that you need if there's an accident? So even just thinking practically right now, we're not in a state of war. We're not in a state of, I say that, but we're not in like active war, right? But if you fall ill in the UK and you are an indigenous person, you ain't seen a doctor. You go to A&E, you're more likely to just die in A&E because you're at the back of the queue. Like, would you know what to do? Do you have some vodka in your house? And that's not for drinking. Do you have some vodka as a quick and easy sterilization agent? Do you have bandages? Do you have these things? Do you have a wind-up radio? And the government even they keep telling people what you need, right? But do you have the things that you need in case of an emergency? Do you know what you can do? So we were talking about clothes earlier. Did you know you can go out in anywhere in England, probably, and you can harvest ivy, and you can use ivy. So you get I think it's called saponins. I don't know how to say it. I've only ever read about it. You can use that as laundry detergent and washing up liquid. So how are you going to survive? So don't start with food because it's fun, right? Especially if you've got little kids, them going around and like guessing stuff. So the other thing I do urge you to get actual books. And again, don't get like don't get new books because they lie. But you might want to get a new book because it'll have like good pictures. But then make sure you get some old books printed out, using a printer, non-electronic copies of things that is reference material. And then just go and find it. Like, so what we used to do as kids, like as a kid, we used to make gooseberry jam. We used to go and collect gooseberries. We would go and collect blackberries. We'd have to go blackberry picking if we wanted puddings. We would be growing rhubarb. So kids love it. I say kids, I didn't fucking love it as a kid. But that's because we used to go for miles. And I had like skin and structural issues. It's like, but as an adult, I love it now. So I know where damsons are locally growing. I know where the blackberries are growing. We're growing wine grapes. We grow gooseberries. We grow at the moment, because we're moving things around, that's kind of it for the moment. I say that for the moment. We grow stuff inside, like salad and stuff for the tortoise. So I don't eat salad stuff very much. But I just a huge portion of anxiety comes from fear of the unknown. Right? What happens if? Oh, and if you kind of haven't looked into essential oils with regards to like healthcare and healing, like I urge you to be careful about, you get some unscrupulous organizations and companies and stuff like that. But I like learning about the food stuff, but I'm too lazy to turn it into like a poultice stuff like that. Just like use an oil instead. It's easier. Anyway, so they're also like, what, if I get diarrhea, I know exactly which oil I need to go and like chug. And when I say chug, I mean like 1 to 2 drops. If my back seizes, I know which oil combination I need. If I cut myself, I know which oils I can use to help heal faster. And if I don't have, I know which plants I can grow. So we've got an aloe plant, right? So just if you don't need like hundreds, you don't need thousands, you don't need like an entire allotment of food. This isn't about like sustaining you indefinitely, though you absolutely can. This is you taking the opportunity now just to enjoy the process of learning. If something were to happen, what could I do? I mean, and I am going to be planting the perennial tubers and stuff this year because I get my planters back. So, and once you've done them once, this is what's best, right? Perennial, you do it once and then you never have to come back to it. I'm such a lazy gardener. Like, I literally go, can I eat that? No, just not going in the garden. I like gardens looking pretty, but I just think they're lazy. So our grass, our lawn is tortoise seeds. Like tortoise seeds is tortoise food. And now I found out that like a lot of the stuff I'm going to be growing for the tortoise is like good for me. I'm going to be like fighting the tortoise, fighting the fish. if I have to. Just have fun with it though. But there is, and if you are struggling, and if you're struggling financially, there is no shame in eating and foraging at all. Like, I don't understand why you'd pay for blackberries when they're literally like, take the dog for a walk and you can come home with like a bag full. My sticking point is trying to find stuff to make flour from. So if you haven't heard, they are going to be forfeiting all of the white flour in the UK from the end of this year, December 2026. So I make bread. Oh, shit. I say I make bread. I literally have. Oh, no. This is... I was supposed to knead this 2 hours ago and then reprove it. Okay, well, I will try and fix my loaf in a minute. So bread, that was my sticking point. So a lot of the things, it's the seeds. I was like, I'm not fucking growing 5 meters by 5 meters of buckwheat for 3 loaves of bread. Like I don't know how big Grok thinks my garden is. However, some perennial tubers, and depending on where you are in the UK or whether you live like desert land, some perennial tubers can actually then be dried and turned into flour. So, and then I found out today, white clover, can be turned into flour, but I think you need like quite a lot of clover. So I'm trying to look en masse what can I use to create my own flour so that I'm not getting like fortified bullshit. So, but as a little tip, what you can do, this is going to be Russian potato bread. So it's potato and flour. So then you use less flour. So it means I'm going to have to grow some potatoes, but I reckon I can probably. I've got a year to experiment. I need to go fix my bread. So there is an opportunity for you to get free forever food. Some of it is free and abundant right now. You just got to go find it. And others you may need to spend. So what's it called? King Henry. Good King Henry are the perennial tubers that I'm going to be growing. Are they the tubers or are they the ones? Good King Henry, they're something I'm growing that's perennial that we used to eat a lot of in the UK. It's £3 for 200 seeds. I don't need 200 seeds, I don't think, if it's perennial and they keep growing and multiplying and growing. I'm going to get walking onions. I'm really excited about the Egyptian walking onions. I just like the idea of like coming like next year, seeing like onions where I haven't planted them. Like that is like my idea of heaven, and it's like Matt's idea of like God and hell. Like he's such a good guy putting up with me. He literally likes like the pristine white picket fence, like flat. And I'm like, oh, we can just like throw some walking onions, and then next year we might get some there. And like he's just like, I can see him like jittering in the corner. But I'm too overbearing to let him. I'm the one who's in the garden more. Anyway, so there is free food. You can have free food, but watch that channel, go to archive.org, think about what would you do in those situations and just have fun. Like do it now so it's fun and not overwhelming, because overwhelm brings anxiety means making the wrong choices. We don't want to be making any wrong choices. So thank you so much for joining. Oh, and if you're in the UK, I hope you're enjoying the snow. It's literally -3 right now. It was -6 earlier. And hopefully we've got more snow. Like snow's my favorite time of year. And I know snow is not a time of year. I am well aware it's not a season. But it is to me. So snow is my favorite season. So thank you very much for joining me. Have yourselves an amazing week. I am so excited to see what's going to happen this week, because we've just had 2 weeks of dramatic political shift with huge financial implications with regards to terrorist networks, and things being handed back to the people rather than old guard, new guard, another guard taking over. So thank you so much for joining me. I'm going to go fix my bread. I shall see you next week.